Good morning. It is Monday, July 26th, and we are gathered for a morning devotion, again using Seeking Aliveness by Brian McLaren. Today's devotion is called Losing Our Divine Perfection. Adam and Eve's two sons repeat the mistake of their parents. The older brother, we might say he is more advanced, becomes an agriculturist. His life is wrapped up in fields and fences and ownership and barns, accumulated wealth, with all the moral complexities they bring. The younger brother, we might say, is more vulnerable or less developed, is a nomadic herdsman. He can't own land or accumulate wealth because he moves constantly with his herds to whatever the fresh grass is growing. The different ways of life are expressed in different forms of religious sacrifice. They soon become religious rivals, competing for a higher degree of God's favor. The perceived loser in the competition, Cain, envies and resents his brother. Sometimes later, we can imagine Abel leading his flock into his brother's field. And at that moment, Cain, his resentment simmers, no longer seeing his brother. He sees a trespasser, an enemy. He plays God and judges his brother as evil and therefore worthy of death. Abel soon becomes the first victim of violence and Cain the first murderer. So we humans quickly turn from reflecting the image of a creative, generous, life-giving God. With Adam and Eve, we become graspers and hiders and blamers and shamers. With Cain and Abel, we become rivals, resenters, murderers, and destroyers, the very opposite of God's image. Graspers, hinders, blamers, and shamers, rivals, resenters, murderers, or destroyer. Monitor whether you feel a pull towards any of these primal human behaviors, seen both in Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel. Power is real, my friends. When we work in our daily lives, are we like Cain or are we like Abel? Are we like Cain, where we see our brother who is a herdsman go into our fields and his sheep are eating our crops? And so we judge him and say he's a thief, or he has stolen from us, or is he taking from us? The reality is, and I'm reading between the lines here of what Brian is saying, is that all of this was created by God. And is it right for us to judge what the other person is doing? I guess in some cases it is. But he's reminding us that God's love is more powerful than the envy we have for others. God's love is more powerful for us than the rivalries we have for others. God says, love our rivals. Care for them. Pray for them. Jesus says, and even Paul says that. Pray for our enemies. And in doing so, we need to pray for ourselves to get rid of that wickedness in our lives and to realize that what is going on is truly that pattern, that logic, that logos that we talked about last week of God in our world. Go forth this day in the peace and the love of Christ.